I'm grateful for the interview, and you're most welcome. Thank you.
Actually, the National HIV Facilitator for the Evangelical Church, HIV/AIDS Facilitator for the HIV/AIDS, and I was on my way to attend 2 meetings to try and source money for the project, which I'm in charge in, or the director I'm in charge of, and the project depends on my sourcing the funds. Yeah, so even my livelihood comes from what I bring in as the facilitator. So if I can't do that, there's no income at all.
Yes, I'm grateful to God that I survived that accident. And let me also start by registering my deepest sympathies for those that lost their lives in that accident. And may their souls rest in peace. Let me also extend my condolences to the families who lost their loved ones in that accident. May the Almighty God continue to comfort them and bring healing in their lives. Yes, indeed, it was a gruesome experience. It was a horrific accident. But my recollection of the accident is very, very short. I left home around 4 in the morning. I had scheduled 2 interviews in Lusaka, so I decided to catch the first bus at 4 in the morning, and that is the accident that was involved. Rather, that's the bus that was involved in an accident. Now, from Kabwe, I'll just cut it short, from Kabwe to the scene of accident, you'll be surprised that I can't recall anything. I never remembered anything that happened. Well, I remember we stopped in Kabwe. Then it was drizzling, it was showering. Then from Kabwe to the scene of accident, I think I must have fallen asleep, or I must have fainted before the accident, or I must have died before the accident. From that point up to the impact of the accident itself, I can't recall anything. The only time that I came round was around 11. And the accident, I'm told, happened around 7 in the morning. From that time up to 11, when I came round, I saw nothing, I heard nothing, I didn't even hear the impact of the accident. All I recall is that I was down under the bus, and when I came round, the first thing I said was, "Lord, where am I?" And lucky enough, there was a gentleman, some of the unsung heroes, and I would like him to get in touch if he's watching this interview. He's the one who told me, "Don't move. You've been involved in a very bad accident. So just don't even move." I tried to feel my body. The whole bottom part, the lower part of my body was completely paralyzed. So that's how he offered to take me to Liteta. I'm told by then most of the dead bodies, the people that were involved in an accident, they were already evacuated. Some were taken to Kabwe General Hospital, some were rushed to Lusaka, and some were on their way going. So he took me from there, he took me to Liteta Hospital, where I was attended to. They tried to do an x-ray. By then, my body now was swollen completely. Tried to do an x-ray, it was so painful, but they managed to detect that I had suffered spinal injuries, which paralyzed my lower part. And immediately, they summoned for some ambulances. They realized that it was a UTH case, and that's how I was rushed to UTH. UTH, I think the doctors there and all the medical personnel were alert, and they examined me. They realized that I had fracture in my spinal cord. So that's how they admitted me and wanted to do further investigations. After 2 or 3 days, they realized that I needed implants. The spinal cord needed to be supported by implants. Unfortunately, these implants were not available at the hospital.
Accidents, well, they'll always be there. Accidents, they do happen. Some are caused, or mainly in our case, they are caused. They could be mechanical, they could be carelessness, they could be overzealousness on the road, and they could just be maybe drunkenness. You see, the government itself has, in my view, it has put in place measures to curb this. But you see, it must be on an individual. We must take individual responsibility to take due care, to take responsibility, and to know that we are using this road with other people. One slight mistake can cause enormous tragedy, as much as it has caused. Just simple being overzealous, impatience to overtake, or impatience, just to observe traffic rules, can cause this tragedy that we're talking about. And the worst part of it is that you can never recover those lives that have been lost. They've been lost, and they've been lost for good. Had that person taken good care, today we will not be talking about this thing. Now, the challenges, one, from that accident scene, I experienced high blood pressure, which I still have now. It hasn't gone down. I'm on hypertensive drugs, and sometimes the pain would recur. But I'd like to say the recovery has been quite awesome, quite awesome. And I'd like also to pay tribute to the hospital authorities. They were equal to the task. But the only challenge that is there is they don't have the equipment. If they had the implants at UTH, they would have inserted them just there and then.
Unfortunately, these implants were not available at the hospital. They were to be ordered from South Africa. And the doctors did their best, but they couldn't help at that time until the implants came in. So I had to wait for 2 months for the implants to come in. And you can imagine, in such pain, you are told to wait for 2 months and you're just in pain. They administered the best medicine they had. They put me on morphine. Morphine wasn't helpful at all. And by that time now, I'd started now experiencing excruciating pain. It's pain unbearable, where if you touched even the edge of my bed, I'll be screaming in pain. And so until after the implants came in, the process itself, because the hospital by then was in charge of all the fees, our admission fees, and all those that expenses that we needed for my upkeep in the hospital. So they needed also to go through their processes, how they were going to help, to what extent they were going to help us, and they realized that the implants themselves were costing 15 million. And as an individual, I didn't have that kind of money. So I had to suffer the pain until they made a decision after 2 months. After 2 months, I was wheeled in the theater for an operation. But then again, when we reached the theater there, I was told the blood pressure, the BP was too high. They sent me back. It was in the range of 230 over 100 and something. So they said even if they had to do their best, if there was rupture in the nerves, they could not control it. So I was sent back. And UTH, you have to have appointments. And the appointments were again scheduled for 1 month from that date. And in that whole period, I was in severe pain. I was in total pain. So, by the grace of God, we survived. I can tell you that I begged God to take me, because that pain, you can't describe it really. But through the prayers of the saints, the prayers of the people, I went through it. I think my appeal to the government is that the cries of the doctors that they need equipment, they need the medicine, they need the facilities, is genuine, and we need to pay particular attention to that. We can save lives from there. It's by the grace of God that I'm talking to you right now, because that pain could have taken me.
They did their best, and they knew what they wanted to do, but they didn't have the facilities. They didn't have the equipment. They didn't have what was needed for them to put me in the right position. When they had those things, all these things fell in place, but it was too late. Certain limbs were already paralyzed. I had been sleeping in one position for that length of a period. I couldn't turn. The fear was I was going to develop some bed sores. Thank God, I never developed that. After that period of time, I was wheeled in the theater. They put they inserted the implants, and the pain, that's how the pain went. Now the paralysis still remained. My right arm, my left, my right leg, they all became paralyzed in that area, in that period. So after that, now it needed rehabilitation. It needed physiotherapy. It needed a wheelchair, the wheelchair that I'm sitting on. And because I had paralysis on the right hand and the left arm, the right leg, I couldn't use the manual wheelchair. When I talked to the authorities in the post bus for a wheelchair, they brought a manual one, which the doctor says, no, it will not be useful. It will not be useful. But I'd like to thank the entire people that were mobilized to take care or to rise up to the challenge of the accident, that they did their best in the hospital. The government, I would like to thank the government, the then Deputy Minister, Disaster Management, Honorable Kalava, visited me, Honorable Kampengele visited me, and I was grateful for their reassurances and their concern about what happened. Then also other well-wishers also visited me just to see how I was faring. But the process itself to get the wheelchair took more than I would say more than the time that was required. I left hospital after, I think that was after a year and some months. A year and some months. No, you can't stop being a pastor. You can't stop being a pastor. In fact, this is something that we need to share with the majority of people. There are many versions to this. You know, one to ask God, why is God good? Yes, God is good. If you look at it from a human perspective, I have a lot of complaints. But God's purposes are His purposes. You see? They are good all the time. They are good all the time. And I cannot even stand here and start questioning God, you know, why this, why that. He saw it good. It pleased Him that this thing takes place. So we just have to trust Him, to depend on Him, and to continue to save Him. To me, that's the greatest challenge. If it will help anybody, if it will help somebody to share this and to share what I went through, then God be praised. And that is why we are here. We are not here for my own purpose to start telling you, you know, why all the challenges are there. But we need to see God in this situation. Like I told people earlier on, let's stop finger pointing. They didn't do this, they never did this, they never did this. Let's learn from this, and let's encourage others to look to God and to look to, you know, what is positive. Basically, that is what I can say. So the government can do what it can do, or it has done its best to put in laws, traffic regulations, law enforcers. But it's up to individual motorists to be aware and to take care that they observe what is in place. We may call for stiff or stringent measures, punishment for those people that do that, but it's too late. It is too late. It's too little, too late. So I think we must increase on awareness. We must, you know, impress upon people to understand and just to take personal responsibility to take extra care on the roads. So it is a tragedy. It's an experience we can learn from. But already we are, like I've said, like I've overemphasized, we've lost lives which you can never recover. This will go down in history as one of the worst accidents in life. As for my personal challenges, I actually appealed to the president. I mean, the vice president office, disaster management. I wrote to the president, and I'm sure the letter was delivered. My daughter told me that she saw the national coordinator, Mr. Kangwa, and Mr. Kangwa directed my daughter to see the president. What I was complaining about was the compensation itself. I do know that there are regulations and rules, but you see, when you look at it very objectively, in this state, I'm incapacitated. I'll do nothing. Those that survived, I'm aware that some of them, they came out with scratches, some of them not as worse as I am, and some of them, you know, it was just maybe a fractured arm. They are able to go back to their work. In my case, I'll never go back to work. Secondly, the compensation itself, whether you call it compensation or as they want to term it as humanitarian, you know, or they call it social responsibility or social responsibility, is you cannot equate what I'm going through with what the other people have gone through. With me, the doctors recommended that I'll need physiotherapy to rehabilitate my body for the next 3 years. In the initial stages, it was a challenge to even just jump in the vehicle. It was a challenge. And when you go to the hospital again, it's a challenge. So sometimes I would go there, and then by the time I'm now making my way to the hospital, my blood pressure would have shot up. I would spend my time resting there and then come back here. I appealed to the authorities that if they could kindly look at this, if they could kindly look at the possibility of them actually taking up the responsibility of physiotherapy. Physiotherapy, if you go to Maryburg, it's 100 kwacha each time you visit them. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have that kind of money. So there are personal challenges. The high blood pressure is also a hindrance to good, you know, recovery. The monetary issues also, they are there. But we thank God that there's been some remarkable improvement in my recovery, but it could be better if the facilities are made available.